Welcome to Side by Side, a podcast where I, Robert Kwong, take you inside conversations with artists, creatives, healers, and warriors taking the charge in their transformational story. This episode takes you inside the world of coaching training with Catharina Schneegass, a leadership and transformation coach, a coach trainer, and an HR development leader. She's one of the co-hosts of the multilingual leadership podcast, I Feel Awful, and is an accomplishment coaching training leader for its European program. If you're curious about coaching and coaching training, take a listen to the episode and please connect with Catharina to learn more. All right. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us today. And you are one of 3 coach trainers for this accomplishment coaching training program. So I'm so excited to dive in and talk to you today because we normally don't chat in this manner.
Thanks for having me, Robert. I'm excited to be on your podcast.
So for you, how did you get into the world of coaching and personal development? And what were you up to before that?
Yeah, I think the answer to your question starts in the before that. So I'm located in Germany. I am German. I grew up and I was raised in the northern part of Germany in Hamburg. And after I finished school, I was pretty clear on what I want to do. So I started studying work and organizational psychology, did a bachelor degree, master degree, fell in love with HR development and training, and did lots of different internships and jobs in this area. Started leading an international HR learning and development department, where I also started coaching first. So I think I started coaching around 2015. Those were my first coaching experiences after I took over the international HR development department back in the days, and where I got to coach a few leaders that were part of my responsibility in the company that I was able to support and like stepping up and taking on a bigger team or their first leadership role. So my first baby steps in coaching were inside the organization and in my role as an HR professional. And then coaching was reinvented, I'd say, at the end of 2019 when my husband and I moved to New York City for quite some time. And I thought there couldn't be a better way of getting to know New Yorkers and building my own network in being part of a coach training program, which was my second one at that point. I did one as part of my master degree. But I wanted to find out more about coaching and leadership from an American perspective, because over here in Europe, everyone's like, the people in the USA, they're like in the United States, they're 5 years ahead of us. So I wanted to know what that was all about. I signed up for accomplishment coaching, did a year of coach training program. And while I was in New York City, I decided to start my own coaching business, which wasn't the plan. I thought I would just do another certificate and like learn more about the skill and then use it in my HR career. But nope, fell in love with it, got addicted to it, and started my business around it.
Now that you've experienced coaching training and coaching in English or Americanized version, and also you continue to coach in Europe in your native language, German, and all of that, what to you are the biggest distinctions in terms of like culturally, or maybe even in terms of, I don't know, method or technique of coaching in Europe versus American coaching?
That is a very complex question. I don't know if we have enough time to
That's big
answer
pressure
that
on
one,
you.
Robert.
Forgive me.
No, it's okay. But that's like one of the questions that I get asked often because I have such an international client base, and some of my clients are coaches as well. So they're always interested in like, what's the difference if you work with American or European clients? And I think the biggest difference when we look at the coach training program, the biggest difference between the German program I did and the American program that I did was that The German one, which even wasn't a German one, I did it in the Netherlands, but it's close enough. So for me, this one was very structured. It was focused on building a skill. It was a lot about use the script. Like there's a 1, 2, 3 step process, something. It was very head-based where you should ask questions like this, or you had like a list of questions that you can ask. And on the other hand, the American program that I did was very, very different. And, you know, there are a lot of like more scripted, structured programs in the US for sure. But the one that I chose with accomplishment coaching is very focused on the experiential learning, which is basically there's no script. You just you get thrown into it and you learn it, and you practice the skill and get better and better and better. And I think that is one of the differences for me between the different coach training programs, is just the approach of learning, like reading books, learning scripts versus getting out there, understanding who you are and what works for you, and then practicing that and like getting support on how this is in alignment with the standards that we follow from the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. When it comes to my clients, I'd say my beloved German clients and a lot of the Northern European countries as well, folks are looking for clarity. Like they want to know what's next. They want to know how to do things. They maybe they want to pivot in their career, but like all they look for is our clarity or ways to fix the problem that they have, and think that I'm the expert that will help them in getting these answers. And then the American and Canadian folks I work with are more focused on, I think, more focused on creation things, like, you know, the whole term of possibility, like what's possible if, like, I want to create this thing, how can we do this? They're more leaning towards dreaming the thing that they want to create and then go for it. And the European clients are more like, this is the thing that I want to create. Like, how do I get there? Yeah, what are the 5 steps that I need to take in order to get there? Yeah.
And I would say accomplishment coaching is very much a reflection of the experiential training that you've described, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yes.
So having both been through the coaching training program with AC, both of us, that's how we met, by the way. I've seen folks who want to undergo training to become coaches. So for coaching training, pure and simple. But I've also seen folks who enter training for just personal transformation. For someone who's more looking not to necessarily become a coach, but just for some personal development, personal transformation, what might they get out of a coaching training program if they don't necessarily want to become coaches?
Yeah. Well, for sure, not everyone who's joining the program are interested in becoming coaches themselves or building a coaching business or something. What they get if they're not interested in becoming a coach themselves is transformation, full stop. And at the end of the day, it's you get what you want to get out of it. You get what you put in it. So it's difficult to say because it's so unique and so individual based on every person. Like even sometimes when we chat about what we got out of the program, it is so unique and different, and depending on what you work on, what you want to have more or less of in your life. For me, the program was so much about self-awareness. And I thought, you know, I facilitated 100 trainings and workshops at that point. I thought I knew everything about personality development and like how I work and what my behavior patterns are. But in this program, it is just, you get the chance to really stick 1 year with a cohort that gets to know you in such a deep level. Like I knew so much about you, Robert, and I didn't know what you were doing for work, for a living before. Or like you don't know what partner they have, or if they have siblings, or, you know, where they come from. But you know so much about the person just because of how the program is wired. You know their deepest fears, you know what they're craving, you know, and I think that's what you get, like a lot of connection, relationships, very, very deep friendships, but also tons of self-awareness, tools, and support to get for what you really want, and therefore sustainable transformation.
So this coaching training program is also accredited with the ICF, and not all coaching training programs are accredited by the ICF. So what are some things that are achievable inside an accredited coaching training program that people might not know? Because truthfully, when I first entered it, that was a lot of information to even begin to understand. So in some ways, I think it can be challenging if you don't understand it to know how to capitalize on it.
Yeah. Well, the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, is an organization that developed standards for coaching. Coaching is not a regulated job, profession, or anything. So basically, everyone can call themselves coach, even if you have no formal training at all, or you have no experience in coaching. Some coaches out there don't even know what coaching really is. And the ICF was one of the first organizations, a very global one as well, that started implementing standards. So defining what coaching actually is. What's the difference between coaching, therapy, and consulting, and being very clear about what the sometimes very blurry lines are and how you are as a coach. So it helps you to coach on a certain level on standards. So your clients know what they can expect when they work with you. They know that you coach on a certain standard, meaning that you are committed to levels of excellence, starting from ethical guidelines over the way you listen, how you create awareness, how you foster sustainable change and support clients and moving forward and creating action. So yeah, you can tell I'm very passionate about that, studying psychology. It always makes me a little when I hear about who calls themselves coaches and have no really idea if that really is coaching or therapy or anything in between. And I just like clarity being in German. So yeah, that's what you get.
Clarity as opposed to certainty, which is what some people really want.
True. Yes.
We could have another chronicle about that. But yeah. So for you inside this coaching training program, what were some of your profound moments, and what did you get out of coaching training for yourself when you were a participant, right? All the way back in 2020.
Oh, that's a very deep question. No, but for real, I got so much from the program. Like for me, I just moved to New York City. I've never lived in the States before. It was in the middle of a global pandemic. So we all met in person once, and then our program became virtual. Me living in this small Manhattan apartment from not seeing my husband at all because we were both traveling a lot for our jobs. And suddenly we were locked in our apartment for 24/7, like figure out how to have a life like this, which was fun, but it was just very different as well. And knowing, that I couldn't travel back home because there were simply no flights between Germany and the States, and my parents not being happy with it, like all these things like that. These are very personal experiences that I had, and a lot of fears around it, like not knowing if I was making the right choice of staying in the States and like doing this program. Even building my business, there were so many insecurities, and the program really helped me to refocus and ground in who I am, and allowing myself to trust that I know what I want and who I am and what I want to do and who I want to be. And I think that was the core of the program for me, to see what I want and see what I need and create that for myself, and like not following the path that I saw it was in the cards for me, like just, taking on bigger teams and HR development and learning, but building my own business, like that didn't make sense to me in the beginning, but I really enjoy how my life looks like right now. So all this to say, the program gave me a lot of insights about who I truly am and who I want to be, not only for myself, but for my clients, for my friends, for my husband, for my family, for everyone around me. It opened my eyes to so many different things. I learned so much about different cultures. There's a list of like 3 million things. And of course the coaching as well. Like I learned so much about what coaching is and the power of understanding who you want to be as a coach with your client as well. There's so much to learn that you can use outside of coaching as well. And I don't mean like don't use it with your husband or your partner or your family. That's
Oh
not what
no,
I'm
don't
saying.
try to coach your mom and dad. That's not
No,
advised.
that's not that's not going to work. But like generally, so much insight that you can create that you can use for whatever. Um, yeah.
Well, you said you have a background in organizational psychology or training, and then also a background in human resources. How
Mm-hmm.
has the world of like human resources and all of the issues that come up there, how do they overlap with things that come up with like coaching, for example, given that you have both backgrounds?
So I work as a leadership coach and trainer. So I still work with a lot of leaders, and sometimes it feels similar to the work that I've done beforehand, because as an HR professional, you're the gatekeeper of all the secret meetings in the company. So you have a lot of knowledge that other people don't.
Right. All the confidentiality stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what you have as coach as well. Like you're a safe person, or you're a safe place for people when you work with your coach. And I think that's an overlap, even though it's different, because as an HR professional, you always have the agenda of your company at the back of your mind. At least I had it back in the days, because even when I was coaching leaders, I still was like, oh yeah, it makes sense to move this person over to that organization or that structure or that whatever level. And as a coach, I don't have that anymore, because I only have my client's agenda in my mind, and that's all that counts, which is very unique and very different, and I'm very grateful of, because it's very fun to not like have the answers for them. I'm not allowed to have answers, and I'm not able to have their answers for them, so they need to figure it out themselves.
How very ontological of you. And truthfully, that's, it's funny you bring that up, how it's based on the client's agenda, because not all coaching is necessarily geared towards that.
Mhm.
And that's definitely something I took away from our training, is to how to, I call it dealer's choice. It is the
Mhm.
client who kind of sets the stage, sets the tone, sets the timeline for all of that. And I would say, having some practice in knowing how to hold that is very, very valuable, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, of course, the knowledge that I have around leadership concepts and the psychology behind how our minds work, in combination with the philosophy of coaching that we train, which is ontological coaching that you just mentioned, which is about the being rather than the doing of things. Um, is just a very fun combination for me to work with, because I still am able to introduce leadership concepts that I know or read about. I'm still training, but I can work with it using the ontological tools that are underneath the surface, rather than like, you should do it this way, and then all your problems, disappear. But looking at behavioral patterns and um, yeah, finding ways to shift them for the clients if that's what they want.
One thing that I do admire for the ICF is that having a governing body, even though, like you say, it's not officially regulated, it can really impact issues and developments such as diversity, equity, and inclusion. And having a governing body and a collective that prioritizes issues like that, that is not specific to one organization or even one industry, it's everywhere, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're an international coach, I would call it that, just based on your client base and also your training background. How has your experience as a coach, as a presenter, as a speaker, as a facilitator, impacted the way that you see issues around DEI? We also did some work around that ourselves, so we've
Mm-hmm.
been exploring this. But I guess I'm asking for your personal point of view this time.
Yeah. Um, oh, that's such a good question. I think I think coaching, when you start learning coaching as a new coach who just finished or is part of a program, I think you get very humble in the beginning when you see people like our mentor, Christine Sachs, modeling coaching in a room, and that's pure magic. I'll never get there. So in the beginning, you get very humbled. And I think that is what I got from DEI as well. DEI looks very different in Europe. We have a very different focus on it. I think the States are way ahead of us in giving it language, being able to talk about it in some way, at least. And I think the big takeaway for me in this is my truth isn't your truth. And there's no way to assess the truth. It's always a mixture of the two individuals interacting. Yeah, like I think before I started the journey that I did around coaching, I always thought, if I only ask good enough questions, if I only research enough, if I just learn this one more psychological tool or model, then I will be able to describe and assess all the different behavior and I know everything. But the more you dive into coaching, the more you understand that this is not the case, because everyone is unique, everyone is individual. And as much as you try to understand the full truth, that's not what it's about. It's not about fully assessing the other person who is sitting in front of you, but being able to see them in a way that they can express who they are, versus you trying to make sense of the other person. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Well, I hear that. That's like the strategy we have of trying to be a good coach, right? And we just get stuck in that sometimes versus actually trying to listen and understand the person across from us. We're just like trying to be good and excellent.
Yeah, exactly. Or get your own opinion across. I don't know. Some people also listen with the intention to respond and like to fill some gaps. And yeah, and the work around belonging, inclusion, diversity, I think it is oftentimes so much about just giving this space and invite everything to be part of the conversation. Yeah.
And what's comfortable and what's uncomfortable as well, right? All of it. Yeah,
Yes. What's
absolutely.
beautiful or ugly,
Right.
even though there's not such a thing, but yeah.
So, is there anything else that you would want people to know? Any details or logistics, even about how AC Accomplishment Coaching's European program will function? Anything you want listeners to know?
So much. Yes. I mean, this program isn't for everyone. I want to be clear about this. This program is for you if you're really interested in transformation, for real, like real transformation. If you're willing to do the work, to dive deep, to invest time, resources, nerves as well. When it gets uncomfortable in transformation, you sometimes want to escape. But if you're willing to really change something in your life, if you're willing to become an excellent coach and receive very individual training as well, which is very unique. When I started researching coach training programs in New York City, I had a whole spreadsheet. I see one. And for me, one of the reasons why I signed up for this program is because it's a year long. So you receive 12 weekends of coaching, 2.5 days. You will have a coach that will meet with you on a weekly basis. So you'll receive 4 coaching sessions a month, 60 minutes that you can use for whatever project that you want to use it. And then having it designed in a way that you have a really strong support structure that will help you to stay on your track whenever you want to quit because it's uncomfortable or it feels like too much. I think that is very unique of the program, and the experiential learning of it as well. In the beginning, I really wanted a script sometimes because that's what I
Don't
want
we
sometimes.
all?
Yeah. But it's so powerful of doing the work to understand who you are and work with that. So yeah, for whoever is interested in listening to that before the beginning of November 2022 or 2023, if you're joining us next year, whoever knows whenever you're listening to this podcast episode, then I'd love to connect. I'd love to share more about the program and see if that might be a fit for you. We're looking for new souls. Right now, we have 4 continents or 4 countries. That's the right way to phrase it. We have 4 countries that are part of the program right now, and I would love to add a couple of more ones because I really enjoy working with different cultures, and I think it's just so beneficial to hear more perspectives in this learning journey.
And this is going to be virtual, so it's more so a matter of time difference rather than your specific location. But there are a number of different places in the world that can actually like really take advantage of a virtual program like this. So
Yes.
yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kathy or Catharina. How can people find you if they wanted to work with you or connect with you online?
Well, you can find me on my website. I will not, which is basically www.catharinaschneegass.com. I will not assume
I'll
that
put that in the
you.
program notes.
Yeah,
Don't
thank
worry.
you. That's what I wanted to say because my first and my last name are really complicated to spell. So that's one way you can reach me, or I'm relatively active on LinkedIn too. And of course, if you want to listen to Robert and my voice even more, we have the I Feel Awful Chronicles of Leadership micro podcast that we host, which are 3 to 4 minutes of micro chronicles around leadership, where you can find us too as well.
And in different languages. So please check out
Yes.
I Feel Awful as well as connecting with Catharina. And I'll make sure to put all the right links for listeners. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you'd like to share your creative process, please email robert@robertkwangcoaching.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to stay connected, you can find me at robertkwangcoaching.com and on Instagram at robertkwangcoaching.